Hey everyone, this is a brief video asking the question, what happens if you run a bunch of these unique contracts from Heist League? I had maybe like 10 or 12 of these stashed up, and I started wondering if these were worth running, if they were worth just selling. Turns out all of these four here are worth about 3 chaos each on the market. I'm going to exclude the Vox Twin fight contract because that one's a little bit different. The thing with these unique contracts is if you haven't run them before, it's basically like a normal contract, except the alarm is triggered right away. So it's constantly just waves of mobs pouring in. But the nice thing is that you get to open every single chest in the hideout without having to worry about triggering an alarm. So you get to just open everything. That's pretty much the benefit of these contracts. You just get all the loot that's in the map. They each have a boss at the end. The boss is always the same for whatever contract it is that you're running, and they always drop a unique associated with that boss. I will say that with the engineering one here, the preventative contract, there's two different types of cobalt jewels that the boss can drop, but they're otherwise their monetary value, they're pretty much the same, so that doesn't really matter. Now, I will say that the reward chests that you can unlock within each contract here are themed to whatever the task is. So here, perception. You'll find that if you run this contract, you're going to have a lot of divination card strong boxes, and also a lot of jewelry. Jewelry that's influence based, that is synthesized or fractured. Something like this. Something that you'll find that more often than not, you'll actually have something that's worth pricing and selling. Considering that the map costs 3 chaos to run, yeah, you can make your money back just off like one piece of jewelry. So with the familiar contract, you're heavily favored to get a lot of stacked decks. Those sell for a lot too. Like one stacked deck is like 2 chaos. So if you're thinking you're paying 3 chaos for this map, you really just need like 2 stacked decks to make your money back. The jewelry also swings wide. I've got a sell tab for each of the 4 contracts, and here I've got just a lot of random stuff that, you know, maybe a lot of it won't sell, but whatever. I'll probably bring those down, but they are worth like pricing and selling. So same with the naval one. So the next one's naval. You get a lot of quality gems. You also get, again, with the kind of like itemized jewelry stuff with influence base or synthesized or fractured, etc. So you see here with the naval, there's some stuff here that was kind of worth just throwing up. Again, considering the map costs 3 to run, if you can get like a 3-4C trade off like a single item, great. That's just pure profit. Everything else is just money after that. Next, you have the engineering contract, the preventative. This one I hated. It's the itemized boxes are pretty much uniques and essences, and that's boring because most uniques just aren't going to make it past your filter because they're not interesting. And essences are just, I find they're very bland. They all do drop screaming, which is the 3rd highest essence tier. So that is something. It's not nothing. You could price at any given screaming essence for maybe like 1 chaos each. So again, relative to paying 3 chaos for the map, you're going to make your money back. Especially if you run a bunch, because you will just accumulate like big bulk essence stashes basically, and those are easy to trade. Another thing you could do if you wanted was just upgrade your screamings into, what's the 2nd highest, like shrieking or something like that. Shrieking, yeah. So what you could do is just take these and upgrade them to the 2nd highest tier, and then like when you run a harvest, and you often get like the currency upgrade, we'll say like upgrade a tier of essence to the next highest, you can just easily get deafenings doing that, if that's something that you're interested in. Otherwise, I mean, you could just list these for 1C each, and then you can just trade a stack of like 10 or 20 at a time, and that's good money as well. So this is kind of like the dump tab just for the engineering one here. These are just some of the more interesting uniques that dropped. Got some maps that I didn't bother stashing the smaller tier maps. Anything that was white or yellow that dropped, I just put in my map tab. I'm not interested in trying to price that out. But you can see here, of all the things that raw dropped, a lot of it's just going to be essence. And the uniques, the ones that suck, you just vendor them and they turn into alchemies. So that's that. It's pretty straightforward. And then the last one here is the Vigilante contract. Mostly delve stuff. So you can get some fossils, you can get some resonators. That's neat. The rest was all pretty random stuff. It was either there may have been like a quality jewel chest, or those that dropped from the regular ones. There was definitely a couple of unique chests. Again, these were the only interesting things, and even these are only like 2 chaos now, so it's not that interesting. I will say for the Vigilante contract that the unique that the boss drops is actually relevant to players for some reason. So, well, not for some reason, it's decent. You can build around that. But yeah, if you get a well rolled one, you can probably sell it for maybe like 10 to 20 chaos. Otherwise, all the rest are probably just like 2 or 3C chaff, but that's still better than the other uniques from the other bosses. So take that for what it's worth. If the map costs you 3 chaos, maybe the unique breaks you even, and then everything else you keep is all just pure profit. But yeah, you're mostly just going to get some fossils and some resonators. I never saw anything crazy from the fossil stuff. So how profitable that's going to be, I don't know. So basically what I did is I took all just like the raw currency type things and I kept them in a dump tab just to track, after running 10 vigilante maps, how what that kind of looked like in terms of profit. And then I also set up a sell tab. This is all I had to sell. I actually sold another one of these emancipation belts for 10 chaos. This one's rolled a bit better, so I put it up for 15. And then I found like a fractured wand, which honestly I don't think anyone cares about, but it doesn't really cost me anything. Just stash it here for the time being. So what I did is I put minus 30 chaos. That's just the cost of buying 10 maps, right? 3 chaos each times 10, 30C. This was that belt that sold. I kind of just kept it separate. But what actually raw dropped in the maps was 25C, just from all the little minor chests and stuff that you open along the way. Almost paid for the 10 maps in themselves. And then you can just consider everything else you see as just pure profit. Again, we got some unique maps here, which all probably total. I'm not even counting the promenade map, but the other ones, I think that's like 6C for Poor Joys. I think Cemetery is like maybe 4 or something, and then 2 for the Overgrown. So yeah, it's like 12 chaos there. If you manage to sell those for 2 chaos, sure. A tier 13 map, I don't know. I mean, these probably aren't crazy, but maybe like 2, 3C for those. This stuff all kind of adds up. And so what I did for the first 2 tabs, because there was a lot more non-stackable things like unique little variant wide swinging drops that you would ID and price, I kind of have been selling those while running the other ones. And what I did was I would take, so for example, I would take all of this currency and buy it from myself. You've probably seen other streamers do this when they do thought experiments as to like how much or how profitable something is. So again, for every single essence, I treat those as 1 chaos each. So I just total up all my essences and then equal that in chaos, put the chaos in this tab, put the essence back in my essence tab, and you keep converting that way. So you buy all your jewelers off yourself, you buy all your fusings and all that stuff. And again, things that aren't worth a chaos, like I'm not worried about that. I'm not going to price out all of these little divination cards. Maybe if Harbinger Fragment's worth something, that's 2 chaos. Sure, I'll buy that for 2 chaos. But like the rest, I'm not even gonna count. So I do exclude a bunch of like the smaller things, like this stack of 2 augmentation orbs. I'm not even gonna buy that. Just whatever, just get rid of it. I'm probably not gonna buy the engineer orb. But following that logic, this is what 10 familials turned into. It was, I initially bought back the 30 chaos, and now we're at like a net positive of 157 chaos. So that's pretty profitable. For 10 maps, you're getting about like 15 chaos. That's not that bad. And what I'll note about this is that this is not as wide swinging as the Navals was in terms of like variation in drops. Because the Naval has the quality gems, I didn't include it, but I did sell it. I got a 2123 Reap, which I was really sad to see was only worth 60 chaos. Maybe once Mathil makes a build, it'll shoot up to like 2x or something, which is sad times for me, but that's what it is. I actually kept this aside. It's not part of the 184C that you see here. So the profit was actually better, but very unlikely that you'll get a 2123 in just a few maps. Maybe if you run like 100, yeah, that might be more common. But then of course it comes down to what gem was 2123. Was it Ice Wall, right? So I'm not going to count that. And again, I bought up the rest of the currency, all the alks and fuses and chromes and things like that. And this also includes some of the trades as well. I have been selling quite regularly out of this tab, and a bit out of this one as well while I ran the preventative and vigilantes. So um, currently we're looking at like 18 chaos per map, and that's profit. That's also discounting the 3 it costs. So um, yeah, that's not bad. So these two are a bit more profitable. These ones I'm going to suspect are not as profitable once I convert everything, and I'll cut to once I've done that, and just so we can compare. But they didn't really have a lot to sell. I got like a not even the best winter orb helm enchant on a decent helm. I doubt it'll sell. Maybe that's 10 chaos, and a quality grace, which is like 4C or something like that. So maybe those will sell. And then, again, like there wasn't much to put up for sale from the preventative and the vigilante. Everything that dropped was kind of just static drops. It was, you got what you got, and there was really nothing to sell. Whereas these two were way more profitable and more exciting too, because it's like, you're running the same map over and over again. It's nice to get kind of exotic drops. Whereas this is your most exotic thing was a unique that's not worth anything, but it's kind of a neat unique, and you're like, okay, well, sure, I could use a gold for leveling an ult or something. I don't know. So what I'm going to do real quick is just buy all this currency off myself and put the chaos in the tab so we can see what that looks like. And before I do that, real quick, I want to mention that if you have not run these unique maps once, the first time you do it, you get a reward of 3,000 rogue markers. And I've put that in the just as part of the profits, although I didn't calculate the chaos equivalent for that. I've kept that separate. But if you run all 4, you get 12,000 rogue markers for 12 chaos, basically. And that's a huge, huge deal. So even if you just want the rogue markers, that's a cheap way. It's cheaper than running heist on your Xena Atlas device, and it's cheaper than buying off the market. So, I mean, it's a one-time thing, and maybe you'll get something else that's neat in the meantime. Anyway, I'm going to cut to selling these, and then we'll take a look at the overall profits from each. Okay, we're back after buying all the currencies in our tab and resolving it to give us a grand total. This is what we're looking at. I didn't bother with these belts. Again, whatever. If they're like 2-3 chaos each, fine. I'm not going to worry too much about it. What I will note is that the preventative and vigilantes don't have a whole lot left to sell in their sell tabs. The carcass jack, I might get 8-9 C4. Maybe I'll get something for that. Again, that's 3C guaranteed if I just drop it 1 chaos. So that could be looking at 12 chaos to add to the profit pool here. Really nothing going on here, as opposed to these, which could still sell something. It's going to be long term though. It's not going to be quick. In a couple days, maybe I'll sell a couple more things. So what I just want to wrap up and say here is that this guy right here, the engineering one, had the most profit to it, which I was surprised by. But I will note that a lot of it is the essences that you get out of there. You get a lot of essences, actually. Whether or not that's something you want to sit and trade with, that's up to you. Maybe you use them for your own crafting purposes and you just want to hoard up your own supply, and then you don't have to spend, like your crafting isn't an expense at the front end. So you can do that. There was a unique in there. I sold a Might of the Meek like immediately for 20 chaos. That's a bit of an outlier, but it's not such a huge chunk of cash that it would really skew the results terribly. Nothing like this that I sold for 60. I didn't include this because 60 is actually a lot. Funny enough, the weakest performing, the familiar, is my favorite one to run. So this one seems to have performed the least. But what I will say is that I had 50 stacked decks from this. So that you average 5 per map. Those sell for 2 chaos each. So I'd say 2/3 of my profit came from a single bulk trade. If you think about it that way, you're sitting on a big pile of stacked decks. It's a single trade and you walk away with 100 chaos, right? So while everything else was a bunch of nickel and dime currencies, all your fuses, your chromes. And don't get me wrong, those are worth a lot this league. Like almost everything small currency is worth more than what you would think. We got a trade here. Hold on one second. And we're back. So I just wanted to say that a lot of the smaller stuff like fuses, they're worth a lot. Alterations, they're worth a lot. Surprisingly, chromes are worth a lot, right? Because fuses are worth a lot, jewelers are also worth a lot because obviously you can just buy fuses with jewelers. So those have a lot of value to them. Sextants are big, big money too. Like there were some of those tabs, and even the engineering one, where there was quite a bit of profit just from the sextants. So don't overlook those. And yeah, GCPs, they're worth quite a bit. I didn't count any of like the smaller stuff. Like I would have, like maybe one blessed orb and some what's those. I just put those into my currency tab. I didn't buy those to inflate the thing. And anything where I had like a half measure stack, like maybe like let's say alchemies are 3 alks for 1 chaos, and I had 11 of them. That's pretty close to 4 chaos. I just rounded down to 3. So for all those tabs and for all those currencies, I was rounding down almost, like half a chaos per different currency type. So if you really wanted to add it all up, it would be a little bit more than that. But yeah, I think if your time is something you value, probably this would actually be the best, even though on paper it looks like it did the worst. Just because it's most of your profit again is just stack decks, and if you like to gamble, you easily make your money back, and then you're free to do whatever you want with your stack decks. Maybe you sell 15 stack decks to get your 30 chaos back, and then you just open the rest for fun. Gamble it. Maybe try and get like a doctor card, obviously, or something like that. So that's up to you to do whatever you want. I kind of have fun doing this, kind of didn't have fun. I'll be honest. I think some of these maps really suck. The counter thermaturgy map, hate it. It's that bio experimental thing where all the mobs just spam acid pools and whatever the hell. Your little follower guy gets caught up, so he can't ever open the door because he's constantly getting monsters spawning on him. He can't open the chest because he's stuck in combat, half a screen off. Really annoying. The brute force one is great because you get Tibbs and he just like smashes the door open, and you don't need him to open the chests in the reward rooms. You just click it and it opens, so it's very quick. It's a quick one to run. I like it for that and that alone. These 3, when you kill the boss, a portal opens and you just take it straight back to town. Unfortunately, with the Vigilante one, you kill the boss, there's no portal. So unless I'm missing something and I'm just dumb, and maybe then that could be it, I had to actually just run out all the way back to the entrance. That was very, very annoying, especially when you're trying to do trades during these things, because the game, it's like GGG designs trading around player trading. That's what they want. But then they design these things where you can't leave them, right? So someone whispers to buy something, and you're just like, well, yeah, that's going to take me a minute to get out. And then half the people are so impatient that they don't even wait for that. So whatever. So each one, divide this by 10. That's what you can expect to get on average per map. Again, 10's not a good sample size. You could definitely take this to 100 maps. I don't have that kind of time or desire, but if someone wants to take that up, I'd be interested to see what their results were. But for the average person out there just looking, don't assume that if you run one preventative map, that you're going to see 20 chaos in your inventory, right? All of this is like split between all of these very small things. So this is something you want to treat as a bulk profit thing. Like you want to run a lot of these to get your stacks up to something that you're actually going to sit down and sell from your hideout. You're not going to sell 13 chromatic orbs. No one's looking to buy 13 chromes, right? So think of it that way. And as profitable as these seem, because if you get 15 chaos for a 3 chaos investment, 20 chaos for a 3 chaos investment, it seems like these are really worth, but I promise you'd have the same results if you looked at any like red tier map. You bought a T13 for 4 chaos and you started banking and counting all the little things that you got out of that, you'd probably have very similar results. Everyone, focuses on the chaos, maybe the alks, maybe the fuses, but everyone ignores the scours, the vols, the jewelers, even to an extent the alterations. Those all add up. They make it's surprising. I thought this was actually the worst performing map until I converted everything over, and it actually turned out to be one of the higher ones. I will say that I do like the naval and the familial, because they have just wider swinging drops, right? You're going to get a lot more influence base or jewels that might be worth something. And over time, you can sell those. If you're just selling it for just pure profit, you can price it whatever, it'll move. If you're trying to get the absolute best dollar for it, I'm sure no one's going to buy it. So treat that as you would. I thought it was an interesting little experiment. I hope someone has something to take away from this, and I hope their takeaway isn't to buy up all the 3 chaos and then relist them for 6 or something like that, because quite frankly, it's tedious to buy all these things. It's tedious to run them. It's tedious to sell everything. Like, the profit really isn't there. If you just have a casual play style, you like to go slow or something, you're not the mega juicer, right? Like, these aren't going to compete with sextant delirious maps or with scarabs and stuff like that. Like, that's for people that are scaling up their income and revenue. Like, they invest way more to get way out of it. That's fine. This is a very simple, low to the ground. You buy a map, you run it. You can't really juice these in any way. It is what it is. So if you enjoy these, look into them. If not, then hopefully this is a cautionary tale for you to not waste your time with them, because there's a lot of little trading. Again, if you value your time, but you want to give it a shot, go for the Heart of Glory one here, because most of your bulk is just divination cards. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed. See you later.